On June 18, 2019, British couple James Morrison, 26, and Sarah Collins, 24, disappeared without a trace during their solo adventure trip across Europe when they set out on their Yamaha Grizzly 700 quadricycle to explore the remote mountain trails around Lake Annecy in the French Alps, becoming one of the most baffling missing persons cases in recent European history. The young couple from Manchester had been documenting their 3-week European adventure through social media, sharing photographs of breathtaking alpine scenery and videos of their off-road expeditions as they traveled through Switzerland, Austria, and France in what they described as a once-in-a-lifetime adventure before settling down. James, a software engineer, and Sarah, a graphic designer, were experienced outdoor enthusiasts known among their friends for their love of extreme sports and exploration of remote locations, having previously completed similar expeditions through Scotland's Highlands and Wales' Brecon Beacons without incident. Where are you reading from? Share your city and country in the comments before continuing this story. Their final social media post was uploaded at 2:45 p.m. on June 18th from a scenic overlook near Lake Annecy, showing them smiling confidently beside their blue quadricycle with the caption, "Conquering the hidden gems of the French Alps, car alpine adventure, char off the beaten path, char living our best life." The quadricycle had been rented 4 days earlier from a specialized adventure sports company in Chamonix, equipped with GPS tracking systems, emergency communication devices, and all necessary safety equipment for traversing challenging mountain terrain. 4 years later, in August 2023, a team of specialized underwater recovery divers conducting routine maintenance on hydroelectric infrastructure in the depths of Lake Annecy would make a discovery that not only revealed the tragic fate of the missing couple, but also exposed an international criminal network that had been preying on adventure tourists across Europe's most popular outdoor destinations for nearly a decade. The day of their disappearance had begun like every other day of their European adventure, with James and Sarah excitedly planning their route through the lesser-known mountain trails around Lake Annecy that they had discovered through online adventure forums and travel blogs promising spectacular views and authentic alpine experiences. During their breakfast at the boutique hotel in Annecy's Old Town, they had enthusiastically discussed their planned route with other guests, showing detailed GPS coordinates of the trails they intended to explore and sharing their excitement about capturing professional-quality photographs for their joint travel blog that had been gaining popularity among adventure travel enthusiasts. The couple had loaded their quadricycle with provisions for a full day of exploration, including professional camera equipment, drone technology for aerial photography, emergency supplies, and communication devices they had specifically purchased for remote area expeditions. Sarah had posted an Instagram story at 11:30 a.m. showing their fully equipped quadricycle ready for departure, writing, "Epic day of alpine exploration ahead. Can't wait to share the incredible footage we're going to capture today." Completely unaware that these would be the final words they would share with the outside world. During the morning hours, several witnesses had seen them riding through the outskirts of Annecy, heading toward the mountain trails, including a local cafe owner who remembered serving them coffee and providing directions to what he described as the most beautiful but challenging trails in the region. The couple had initially followed their planned route successfully, as evidenced by the photographs and videos they uploaded during the first few hours, showing stunning alpine landscapes, their quadricycle navigating winding mountain paths, and their faces radiant with joy as they experienced the adventure they had dreamed about for months. However, what James and Sarah didn't realize was that they had been specifically targeted by a sophisticated criminal organization that used social media monitoring to identify wealthy young tourists with valuable equipment who traveled to remote areas where they would be vulnerable to capture without witnesses, making them perfect victims for a trafficking operation that had been operating with impunity across Europe's most popular adventure destinations. The disappearance of James and Sarah immediately triggered comprehensive international search protocols, but the criminal network responsible for their kidnapping had developed such sophisticated methods of evidence elimination that investigators would remain completely baffled for 4 years, despite mounting one of the largest missing persons investigations in French Alpine history. The adventure sports rental company reported the couple missing when their quadricycle wasn't returned at the scheduled time, activating GPS tracking systems that showed the final signal had been transmitted from coordinates 45.8326 degree N, 6.1752 degree E, in a remote mountainous area approximately 25 kilometers from Annecy Center, where the terrain was particularly challenging, and cell phone coverage was sporadic. French mountain rescue teams launched an immediate and intensive search operation involving helicopters equipped with thermal imaging technology, specialized mountain rescue units with climbing expertise, trained search dogs, and dozens of volunteers familiar with every trail in the region. But after 3 weeks of exhaustive searching, no trace of the couple or their quadricycle was discovered. British authorities coordinated closely with French police, sending missing persons specialists who analyzed the couple's movements during the days preceding their disappearance, reviewed security camera footage from throughout the Annecy region, interviewed potential witnesses, and examined their electronic communications for any clues that might explain their fate. Investigators initially theorized that the couple might have suffered a fatal accident in an area so remote and inaccessible that their bodies and equipment might never be recovered. But this explanation became increasingly unlikely as advanced search technologies failed to locate any evidence despite covering virtually every square kilometer of the search area. The couple's social media accounts showed mysterious activity for several weeks following their disappearance, including posts that appeared to be from James and Sarah but contained subtle inconsistencies in writing style and behavior patterns that suggested someone else had gained access to their accounts to create the illusion that they were still alive and continuing their travels. Analysis of their mobile phone data revealed sporadic signals from various locations across Europe during the months following their disappearance, creating a confusing digital trail that seemed designed to misdirect investigators and suggest the couple was still traveling voluntarily. French authorities expanded their investigation internationally when similar disappearances of adventure tourists were reported in Switzerland, Austria, and Italy, all involving young couples who had been documenting outdoor activities on social media before vanishing in remote locations where rescue would be difficult and witnesses unlikely. The 4 years following James and Sarah's disappearance were marked by the unwavering determination of their families to find answers, leading to the formation of support networks for families of missing tourists and sustained pressure on international authorities to continue investigating what appeared to be a pattern of disappearances across Europe's adventure tourism destinations. Sarah's mother, Helen Collins, became a tireless advocate for improved safety protocols for adventure tourists, establishing a foundation that provided resources and support to other families dealing with similar tragedies, while maintaining constant pressure on law enforcement agencies to treat these cases as potential criminal activity rather than accidental deaths. During this period, private investigators hired by the families uncovered disturbing evidence suggesting that multiple young couples had disappeared under remarkably similar circumstances across several European countries, including Germans, Dutch, and Swedish tourists who had all been active on social media, traveling with expensive equipment, and exploring remote areas before vanishing without trace. The family's investigators identified concerning patterns in these disappearances, including evidence that all victims had been monitored on social media platforms by fake accounts that appeared to be gathering information about their travel plans, equipment, and routes, suggesting systematic surveillance by an organized criminal network. International cooperation between family groups led to the creation of a database documenting over 30 suspicious disappearances of adventure tourists across Europe between 2015 and 2022, with patterns so consistent that Europol eventually opened a formal investigation into what they designated as a potential international criminal conspiracy. The families also discovered that social media platforms had been infiltrated by sophisticated bot networks that appeared to be specifically targeting adventure tourists, collecting detailed information about their locations, equipment, financial status, and travel plans that could be used to identify ideal victims for criminal operations. During these years, the Collins and Morrison families received occasional anonymous communications claiming to have information about James and Sarah, but these invariably proved to be extortion attempts or cruel hoaxes perpetrated by individuals seeking to exploit their desperation and grief. The sustained media attention generated by the family's advocacy efforts eventually attracted the attention of investigative journalists who began documenting the broader pattern of missing adventure tourists, leading to increased public awareness and pressure on European law enforcement agencies to coordinate their investigations across national boundaries. In August 2023, 4 years after the disappearance, a team of specialized underwater recovery divers from Alpine Aquatic Services was conducting routine maintenance and inspection of hydroelectric infrastructure in the deepest sections of Lake Annecy, when they made a discovery that would fundamentally change the entire investigation and finally provide answers to the questions that had tormented the families for years. The diving team, led by Operations Supervisor François Dubois, was working at depths exceeding 100 meters in an area of the lake that had never been accessible to previous search efforts due to dangerous underwater currents and the technical diving expertise required for such depths. During their systematic inspection of underwater cables and monitoring equipment, diver Marie Leclerc reported finding what appeared to be a large object covered in sediment and aquatic vegetation that clearly didn't belong to the industrial infrastructure they were there to maintain. The careful recovery operation required specialized equipment and took several days to complete, but when they finally brought the object to the surface, it was confirmed to be a Yamaha Grizzly 700 quadricycle, matching exactly the specifications of the vehicle that James and Sarah had rented 4 years earlier. The condition of the quadricycle immediately revealed that it had not reached the lake bottom through any kind of accident. The vehicle had been deliberately weighted down with concrete blocks and steel chains, clearly indicating criminal intent to permanently conceal evidence. Inside waterproof storage compartments, the recovery team found the couple's professional photography equipment, personal belongings including passports and credit cards, and most significantly, memory cards containing footage from their final day that would provide crucial evidence about their fate. The GPS tracking device that had been disabled shortly after their disappearance was also recovered, along with their emergency communication equipment that showed signs of having been deliberately destroyed to prevent any distress signals. The location where the quadricycle was discovered was in one of the deepest and most inaccessible parts of the lake, over 40 kilometers from where the couple's final GPS signal had been recorded, indicating that their captors had transported the vehicle to this location specifically chosen to ensure it would never be accidentally discovered by recreational divers or standard search operations. The discovery immediately transformed what had been treated as a missing persons case into a murder investigation, with French authorities launching Operation Alpine Shield, a comprehensive criminal investigation that would ultimately expose an international network responsible for dozens of similar crimes across Europe. The forensic analysis of evidence recovered from Lake Annecy provided investigators with their first concrete leads in 4 years, revealing a sophisticated criminal network that had been systematically targeting adventure tourists across Europe and operating with a level of organization that had allowed them to avoid detection by law enforcement agencies for nearly a decade. Analysis of the memory cards recovered from the couple's cameras revealed footage taken moments before their capture, showing unknown individuals approaching their quadricycle in what appeared to be a carefully orchestrated ambush that had been planned with detailed knowledge of their route and timing. The photographs and videos documented the couple's final hours, providing crucial evidence about the methods used by their captors and the location where the initial contact had occurred, enabling investigators to focus their efforts on specific areas and potential witnesses. French investigators working in coordination with Europol launched a comprehensive analysis of communication data, financial records, and surveillance footage from across the Annecy region, identifying several individuals whose presence in the area during the time of the couple's disappearance had not been adequately explained during the original investigation. The investigation team used advanced digital forensics to trace the unauthorized access to James and Sarah's social media accounts, discovering that their profiles had been managed from IP addresses linked to a network of computers across Eastern Europe, suggesting involvement of organized crime groups with international operations and sophisticated technical capabilities. Analysis of the couple's financial records revealed that their bank accounts had been systematically drained over several months following their disappearance, with transactions occurring in multiple countries and using methods clearly designed to avoid detection by anti-fraud systems and law enforcement monitoring. The quadricycle itself provided additional forensic evidence, including DNA samples from multiple individuals who had handled the vehicle after the couple's capture, creating genetic profiles that were compared against international criminal databases and resulted in matches with known members of human trafficking organizations. International cooperation between French authorities, Europol, and police agencies from countries where similar disappearances had occurred led to the identification of a criminal network that specialized in kidnapping adventure tourists for ransom and human trafficking purposes, operating sophisticated surveillance operations that monitored social media to identify ideal victims. The investigation revealed that the network had developed detailed profiles of their targets, including financial information, travel plans, equipment inventories, and family circumstances that enabled them to execute precisely timed operations that minimized risk of detection while maximizing the value of their criminal activities. Operation Alpine Shield culminated in September 2023 with coordinated raids across 7 European countries that resulted in the arrest of 31 members of an international criminal network and the rescue of 12 victims who had been held in captivity for periods ranging from 6 months to over 2 years. The operation involved law enforcement agencies from France, Switzerland, Austria, Italy, Germany, Romania, and Albania, targeting the criminal organization's entire operational structure, from surveillance teams to detention facilities to financial networks used for laundering ransom payments. The arrests included the network's leader, Aleksandar Petković, a 42-year-old Serbian national who had been coordinating the operation from a fortified compound in the Albanian mountains, where several victims were being held in underground detention facilities equipped with sophisticated security systems. During the raids, investigators recovered extensive evidence of the criminal network's activities, including detailed databases containing surveillance information on hundreds of potential targets, financial records showing millions of euros in ransom payments and human trafficking proceeds, and communication logs documenting the fate of numerous victims, including James and Sarah. The interrogation of captured network members revealed that the couple had been held captive for approximately 3 months at a remote facility in the French Alps before being transferred to buyers in Eastern Europe, who specialized in forcing victims into labor operations that generated ongoing revenue for the criminal organization. Petković, faced with overwhelming evidence and the prospect of multiple life sentences, provided detailed confessions about the network's operations, including the revelation that James and Sarah had been murdered when they attempted to escape from their captors, with their bodies disposed of in a remote location that would require additional investigation to locate. The criminal network had been operating for over 8 years, generating estimated profits exceeding $50 million through kidnapping for ransom, human trafficking, and forced labor operations that exploited victims captured from adventure tourism activities across Europe. Detailed records recovered during the raids showed that the organization had been responsible for at least 73 kidnappings of tourists during this period, with victims from 12 different countries who had been captured while participating in outdoor activities in remote locations where rescue was unlikely. The network had developed increasingly sophisticated methods over the years, including the use of drones for surveillance, social media monitoring software for target identification, and corrupted officials in multiple countries who provided information about law enforcement activities and helped facilitate the movement of victims across international borders. The trials resulting from Operation Alpine Shield became one of the most significant international criminal cases in European history, attracting global media attention and leading to comprehensive reforms in tourist safety protocols and international cooperation procedures for combating organized crime targeting travelers. Alexander Petkovich was sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole for directing a criminal organization responsible for multiple murders, kidnapping, and human trafficking, while other key members of the network received sentences ranging from 25 to 45 years, depending on their roles in the operation and level of cooperation with investigators. The evidence presented during the trials revealed the sophisticated nature of the criminal organization, including their use of advanced technology for surveillance and communication, corruption of officials across multiple countries, and development of detention facilities specifically designed for holding kidnapping victims for extended periods. The European Union established the James Morrison and Sarah Collins Memorial Fund to support improved safety measures for adventure tourists and provide resources for families of victims of international crime, while also funding research into methods for preventing criminal exploitation of social media platforms used by travelers. French authorities implemented new safety requirements for adventure tourism operators, including mandatory GPS tracking for all vehicles rented for remote area exploration, improved emergency communication systems that function in areas without cellular coverage, and background checks for individuals who have access to information about tourist activities and locations. The case also led to significant changes in social media platform policies, with major companies implementing new security measures to detect and prevent the kind of systematic surveillance that had been used to target victims, including enhanced privacy controls for travel-related posts and automated systems for identifying suspicious account activity. International cooperation protocols developed during the investigation have been adopted as standard procedures for cases involving missing tourists, creating streamlined processes for sharing information across national boundaries and coordinating rescue operations that cross multiple jurisdictions. The families of James and Sarah, while devastated by the confirmation of their deaths, found some consolation in knowing that their case had led to the rescue of other victims and the dismantling of a criminal network that had caused immeasurable suffering to dozens of families across Europe. The memorial established in their honor at Lake Annecy has become a symbol of hope for families of missing persons and a reminder of the importance of international cooperation in combating organized crime that targets innocent people seeking to explore the world's most beautiful destinations. A decade after the recovery of the quadricycle from Lake Annecy, the impact of James and Sarah's case continues to influence travel safety policies and international law enforcement cooperation protocols throughout Europe and beyond, while their memory serves as a powerful reminder of both the beauty and dangers inherent in adventure travel to remote destinations. The technological innovations developed in response to their disappearance have evolved into comprehensive safety systems that combine real-time GPS tracking, emergency communication networks, and artificial intelligence-powered threat detection to identify and prevent criminal activities targeting tourists before they can result in kidnappings or disappearances. Adventure tourism operators across Europe now implement some of the world's most advanced safety protocols, including mandatory check-in procedures, real-time location monitoring, and emergency response systems that can coordinate rescue operations across multiple countries simultaneously. The James Morrison and Sarah Collins Foundation, established by their families, has become a leading organization in promoting tourist safety and supporting families of crime victims, providing resources that have helped solve dozens of missing persons cases and prevented numerous potential kidnappings through improved awareness and prevention programs. The law enforcement techniques developed during Operation Alpine Shield have been adopted internationally, creating standardized protocols for investigating cases involving missing tourists and establishing permanent task forces dedicated to combating criminal networks that exploit the vulnerability of travelers in remote locations. Their story continues to be told in travel safety programs, law enforcement training courses, and public awareness campaigns that educate tourists about the importance of sharing travel plans with authorities, avoiding detailed social media posts about valuable equipment or remote destinations, and maintaining regular communication with family members during adventure activities. The social media monitoring systems developed to identify and prevent the kind of surveillance that targeted James and Sarah have evolved into comprehensive protection networks that help travelers identify potential threats, and law enforcement agencies detect criminal organizations before they can harm innocent victims. The International Memorial Garden established at Lake Annecy displays photographs of all victims of the criminal network, serving as both a tribute to those who lost their lives and an educational center where visitors can learn about travel safety and the ongoing fight against organized crime targeting tourists. The recovery techniques used to locate their quadricycle in the depths of Lake Annecy have been refined and adopted by search and rescue organizations worldwide, providing new capabilities for solving missing persons cases that involve bodies of water and underwater evidence recovery. Each tourist who returns safely from an adventure trip carries with them a small part of James and Sarah's legacy, while every successful international criminal investigation that prevents kidnapping or trafficking fulfills the promise that their deaths were not in vain. Today, more than 4 years after James Morrison and Sarah Collins began their final adventure together in the French Alps, their legacy lives in every safety protocol that protects adventure tourists, every tracking system that enables rapid response to emergencies in remote locations, and every international cooperation agreement that allows law enforcement agencies to work together effectively to combat organized crime that targets innocent travelers. The advanced technologies inspired by their case have evolved into comprehensive protection networks that combine satellite communication, artificial intelligence threat detection, and automated emergency response systems that can identify dangerous situations and coordinate rescue operations even when victims are unable to communicate their distress manually. The European adventure tourism industry, once vulnerable to exploitation by criminal networks due to inadequate safety protocols and insufficient coordination between operators and law enforcement, now operates under some of the world's most rigorous safety standards, with monitoring systems, emergency procedures, and international cooperation protocols that have been developed specifically to prevent other couples like James and Sarah from falling victim to organized criminal operations. Their families, while forever marked by the devastating loss of their children, have found purpose and healing through their tireless work to protect other travelers, transforming their personal tragedy into a powerful force for positive change that has saved countless lives and created lasting improvements in tourist safety across Europe and beyond. The international protocols for investigating missing tourist cases, developed in response to their disappearance, have been adopted globally, creating a network of law enforcement cooperation that enables rapid response to kidnapping attempts and systematic dismantling of criminal organizations that prey on vulnerable travelers in remote destinations. Their photographs, taken during happier moments when they smiled confidently while planning their alpine adventure, are displayed in the memorial as reminders that they were real people with dreams, hopes, and a future together that was stolen by criminal greed, but whose love for adventure and life continues to inspire safety measures that protect countless other travelers who share their passion for exploring the world's most beautiful places. James and Sarah's story continues to be told in adventure travel communities, safety training programs, and international law enforcement conferences that teach new generations about the importance of travel awareness, the reality of organized crime targeting tourists, and the responsibility we all share to protect those who venture into remote areas seeking the transformative experiences that travel can provide. The systems that now protect adventure tourists are so advanced that many travelers never realize the multiple layers of security operating to ensure their safety. From satellite tracking systems to AI-powered threat detection networks that can identify potential criminal activity and coordinate protective responses across multiple countries simultaneously. Each couple who safely completes an adventure trip in remote locations carries with them a bit of James and Sarah's legacy, while every successful law enforcement operation that prevents kidnapping or dismantles criminal networks fulfills the implicit promise that their sacrifice has meaning and continues to protect innocent people who dream of exploring the world's most spectacular destinations. Their story demonstrates that even the most devastating tragedies can be transformed into forces for good, when love, determination, and commitment to protecting others combine to create lasting changes that honor the memory of those who died while pursuing their dreams of adventure and discovery in some of the most beautiful but dangerous places on Earth.